The drills that China's doing are building on what they've been doing for 18 months plus now around Taiwan, increasing the amount of pressure that there is. They seem to be practicing putting a blockade around the island. That's a naval blockade as well as an air blockade, and bringing together all of the different aspects of the Chinese military to be able to enforce that blockade. This is a very complex operation, and we've seen over the period of time the complexity of Chinese um, uh, exercises, but more invasion rehearsals getting more and more complex and more daring, sending a message to Taiwan, sending a message to the international community, but also trying to ready their forces for what would be a very, very, very complex military operation if they decided to take Taiwan by force. Well, China's sending to Taiwan that you are not an independent country. You're an errant province of China. They're pushing the one China policy. And of course, we've seen and heard Xi Jinping turning around and saying that he will bring Taiwan back into the fold by whatever means necessary. And we're seeing that in the buildup of not just the Chinese military drills and exercises around Taiwan and their complexity, but what China's doing in buying and building new equipment. It's building equipment that can only be used for invasion across a beach. For example, it's got special barges with ramps out the front that could carry tanks that could be connected together to create a causeway. That's essential if you're putting troops in across a beach or over an unprepared area with heavy equipment. You only build those things if you've made a decision to invade. They're very expensive, and you can't use them for anything else. So, China is upping the ante against Taiwan very, very rapidly. I think China is nearly ready. If I was to look at it in timelines, I would say probably late 2026, mid 2027. China has launched power projection capability. It's got its third aircraft carriers just launched. It's practicing with that. It's launching the equivalent of the Royal Navy in surface vessels every year. It's converted and launched an awful lot of ro-ro ferries that have been adapted for military use to be able to take tanks and heavy equipment. It's built these specialist barges. It's just demonstrated a big undersea cable cutting capability. And of course, we've got these drills, both using its air forces and its naval forces. And that is sending a very clear message that China intends to take Taiwan by force if necessary. And I think it's more than just a political statement. I think Xi Jinping has made that decision to take it. The question is now just when. Taiwan is very prepared militarily, but of course it's a hugely smaller military capability than China can throw at it. But it would not be an easy operation for China to take Taiwan by force. And of course, Taiwan would hope that the international community would come to help. Now, it's no accident that the Americans have got a couple of aircraft carriers in the region. It's no accident that HMS Prince of Wales is leading a multinational task force to go down through South China Seas. And the first ever deployment of HMS Queen Elizabeth was down into the Southeast Asian region as well. It's sending very clear messages to China that the likes of Taiwan, but other countries around the region are not on their own. And we've just seen the Americans renew their defense agreements with the Philippines. So that's hopefully going to deter China. I'm not sure whether it will or not. I think the West would be drawn in automatically because our Southeast Asian pivot. I think it's 80% of all the semiconductors that we use in all our electronics around the world come from Taiwan. The global economic shock that would make the economic shock we felt after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine and the impact on the energy prices seem like small change compared to what would happen. And it would cause wider regional destabilization. And of course, China is not just carrying out these actions against Taiwan, it's also putting pressure on Japan, on the Philippines, on Vietnam, and elsewhere. So we're seeing a real arms race in Southeast Asia. And that's something that I know the Americans have got this as their primary concern, but we should all be concerned about.
China escalated its military drills around Taiwan on Wednesday. It held long-range live-fire drills in the East China Sea. The exercises involved precision strikes on simulated targets of key ports and energy facilities, according to China's Eastern Theater Command. China gave a codename for the first time to its war games, which started Tuesday, Straight Thunder 2025A. State media CCTV said the exercises are a, quote, strong warning and a strong deterrent to the separatist forces of Taiwan independence. Chinese rhetoric has been building up against Taiwan President Lai Ching-te, who won the election last year and who rejects Beijing's sovereignty claims over Taiwan. The war games come after U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's Asia visit, during which he repeatedly criticized Beijing. The United States, which remains Taiwan's most important international backer and main arms supplier despite the lack of formal diplomatic ties, condemned China's exercises on Tuesday. In a statement, the U.S. State Department said China's aggressive military activities and rhetoric toward Taiwan only serve to exacerbate tensions and put the region's security and the world's prosperity at risk. Japan and the European Union also expressed concern. While the Taiwan government has denounced China for holding the drills, for most Taiwanese it's just another normal day. Taiwan has been under threat of Chinese invasion since 1949. Though Chen Yifan, an assistant professor of diplomacy and international relations at Taiwan's Tamkang University, says Taiwanese should be more aware of the threats coming from the mainland.
I think as a Taiwanese people, we have to worry about this because right now it's like, we are in the water pot and they are boiling the water gradually, step by step. But the problem right now is because the administration here in Taiwan, they are actually emphasizing they are trying their best to monitor all the situation. They do not really reveal all the reality to the public. So this is why also the public, we do not know why we should worry about the situation, because we don't have the sufficient information and transparency about the reality of the battleground.
Chen says China's drills may work in favor of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, which may use the crisis to rally local support ahead of domestic elections next year.
The aim is to build the resilience of Taiwan's society to cope with large-scale natural disasters or major accidents with many casualties, or regional geopolitical changes. We dare not be prepared. As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure, and we should rely not on the likelihood of the enemy not coming, but on our own readiness to receive him.